Today's show is brought to you by Hopsterette.com. Grown in the esteemed Yakima Valley on the Peterball family farm, Hopsterette.com offers the widest variety of hops available online at incredibly competitive pricing. It's simple. They grow hops, they sell hops, and they ship hops straight from their family-owned farm to your doorstep. Producing the highest quality hops is Hopsterette.com's passion, and they're proud to be an independent grower in the craft beer industry. Go to Hopsterette.com right now and get what you need to make your brew day better. That's Hopsterette.com. Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch-right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial Yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Trub Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial Yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Explaining why Kolsch is delicious, do brands matter when buying malt, and recipes without 60-minute hop additions. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 302. Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them into 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing, joined always by my co-host, the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com over there, Mr. James Carlson, my friend. Thank you for doing the show.
Hey, glad to be here.
Todd has abandoned us. No, he didn't.
He has.
He's on his, I'm happy. Let me start fading that music out. He is, finally, after, I think this is, for 2 years, he wasn't able to do this trip. Last year, I think it was when his pop had his stroke and brain bleed issues, and thank God his pop is great, doing great. And the year before was COVID. I think they canceled the hunt altogether. So Todd's out in Wyoming. Do you remember the last time he did the hunt? He got beat up by the antelope. Do you remember that? I say beat up by the antelope. I'll have to put in.
I still have the picture.
Yeah. In that episode we did that week, you were the one who showed the photo on it. I have a clip of it somewhere. But in that, that was one of my favorite things ever. Is he texted you? I forgot what actually happened. He didn't actually get beat up by an antelope, but like on his way of trailing one, he slipped, or I forgot what happened. His nose
fell. Busted his lip,
and his nose was like split open. None of that this time, though, unfortunately, because that would have made my day. No, I was up there earlier this week. We were getting stuff done. You today are coming live from the brew room. Tell everybody, what are you doing?
I'm brewing a dark lager.
What is it? When I hear dark lager, I think Czech dark lager. Is there?
It's kind of a cross between a semi-stout and a Czech lager. I've got Pils and Malt as the base, and then I've got some Carafa 1 and some Carapils. So we'll see how it turns out. It may be a little too coffee for my taste, but then I can come back and back off of that and maybe sub it with some 40L and kind of get that that kind of alt beerish kind of taste, but not more on that end than the stout side is what I'm going for.
Right.
You're the stout guy, not me.
No, I'm not. Lorena is the stout lady, and I just take her recipe and brew it. But which, yeah, I still need to get those ingredients. Darn it. I didn't see when I was up there if we have them. I imagine we have most of the stuff. We got maris otter. We've got plenty of roasted malt. That's what I thought.
We got some chocolate malt.
I should have brought it back.
We've got some black patent malt. Ugh.
Yeah. It's just for color.
Yeah.
It uses a tiny bit. Yeah, I should have done that. Yesterday, my daughter had a band recital, and then I always played drums on the Wednesday night at church, and I was just like, at noon, or it was like 12:30, I was like, sorry guys, gotta go, and totally forgot to brew. Like, we talked about brewing the pressure pills, which I'm so glad you're actually brewing the dark lager, because that sounds delicious for this time of the year. Forgot that. Forgot to look up the ingredients for the breakfast. It was a forgetful day. But either way, we are here. We're doing the show. Let me get us through some small talk first. I already said Todd is out of town. You're brewing. Emphasis on I need to brew. Covered that. Oh, the Trub Club recipe. Let me see. Let me put it up on the screen here. You can't see it, but boom, there it is. The delicious California Common. I didn't update the photo. It still says Imperial Pub. That's not pub, guys. It comes with cable car from our friends over at Imperial. You know, Imperial is turning into one of the longest sponsors of the show, James.
I know. They've been great.
They've had our bats almost since day one. And I say almost. They've had our bats since day one because they were telling us, we want to sponsor the show, just tell us what to send you. And it took like a few years for me to finally be like, hey, do you want to sponsor? And they were like, we've said that every time we run into you. Like, we'd love to sponsor it. So here, let me put it back on the screen there. Get the California Common when you join the top tier of our recipe receiving Trub Club spots. You could go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. And I say the top tier. If you join the $35 tier, guys, and you're like, I really want that California Common, even though I'm not supposed to get my first recipe till the next month, I'll work with you. I'm pretty good at that. We've only been burned once. One guy, I won't name names because I don't know defamation laws or libel laws or all that. But one guy did burn us. He did the 1 month. He goes, I can't wait to be in the club for a long time, but can I get this first month? And then he canceled as soon as he got that first month's recipe for $35.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But you know what? We've had rotating in and out of recipe receiving things, 150 people. And
that's cool.
And that it only happens once. I like those numbers.
Yeah, those are good odds.
Good odds. We were talking about it the other day, James, up at the ranch when I guess it was episode 300. Our audience, it is the best. Period. Like our community is the best. They're engaged, they're supportive, and they're usually just good people. Like that one person who burned us, I don't think is a normal member of our audience. You know what I mean? Like, because that's not been my experience with people who listen to the show. Most people who listen to the show have a lot better heads on their shoulders than to burn us over, $50 worth of ingredients and shipping and all that. So, but anyways, so now, not to give anyone ideas out there, like, oh, Josh, I could join at the $35 and sucker him into sending me the recipe. You can, but then I will start naming names. How about that? So yes, go to homebrewhappyhour.com/club, or more directly, go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. Join our Chub Club at any tier. We sincerely appreciate the support. We're on episode 302, and we could not have been this far without y'all's support financially and just tuning in and sharing the show. There was a Reddit post. I know you don't do Reddit. You don't really do social media like at all. I love it.
I'm free.
I'm addicted.
I'm a free man.
I have my phone like. Have you ever seen that picture of the person with the phone clawed to their face? That's me. But I saw a Reddit post. It was a guy. He made a spreadsheet breakdown of homebrewing podcasts and like the top reviewed ones and the least reviewed ones and and ours wasn't on the spreadsheet. So I made some smart ass comments about like, I'm going to show Todd this and tell him that we're not even on the charts. We're beyond the charts. And the guy then I said something like, I do have a cousin who started getting into home brewing, and I was like, I don't feel comfortable recommending our show to him either. Like, I get it. And then the person, I think, felt bad, and they're like, okay, I put you on the list. Our reviews for how many we have and how many downloads and all that, our stats are good, is what he said. So that's
wow.
I'll take that as a victory.
So he just wasn't aware, maybe.
Oh yeah, which is the case. It's hard when, like, I don't want to spam people with, like, inundate them with, check out our show, hey, new episode, beyond what we do already on our own personal channels. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't you hate?
Oh yeah.
Like, you used to be on Reddit. Like, you go to a Reddit thing for car parts or like a car showing off people's builds, a hot rod or something. And if one person, all they ever do is just like, hey, here's some content on my blog about my car. Eventually you'd be like, yeah, we did it, dude. Okay, yeah, we did it. But that could just be me projecting because I just don't want to, I don't know. I don't want to inundate people with stuff like, hey, hopefully you found out about us from a friend, or because maybe you're a customer of Cat Connection, you saw the flyer. But I could probably...
Yeah, we're not pushy.
I try not to be. Try not to be. But I could maybe be a little pushier. I've gotten that feedback. People are like, you could be pushier. You could talk about it more or post about it more online. And then I tell them, well, on Reddit, they don't let me. On Homebrew Talk, maybe I could try. We know Homebrew Talk. We know the owners of Homebrew Talk. Hey man, can I just spam your forum with Homebrew Happy Hour stuff? We actually worked with an ad company that was like, hey, we want you to spend an ungodly amount of money. We're gonna promote this show, and this isn't the same ad company we worked with now. We've had people approach us about advertising for the podcast, and Todd's like, no, I want to just add, I don't know how to monetize that. Like, hey, listen to our show. We don't get paid by people listening to the show. But anyways,
right.
Now I'm going on a tangent. Before we get into the whole show, I do have some listener feedback. So it's time for listener feedback. I got a voicemail from our buddy Jonathan Marut. He's been on the show, and I've told him if he keeps leaving us feedback, I'm going to have to make a segment for him called the Marut Minute. But until I make
that's awesome. I know that's a great idea.
I know, right? Until I make it official, here's some feedback from episode 301 from our buddy Jonathan Marut.
Hey Josh, it's Jonathan in Fort Worth. I wanted to call and give you a little bit of feedback on the last episode. There was a couple of items that I thought could use a little clearing up. The first thing is you were conflating carbon monoxide with carbon dioxide.
I did.
And obviously those are two very different things. Carbon dioxide is what we use to push the beer out of our kegs and what we use to carbonate the beer and that sort of thing. And carbon monoxide is what we have detectors for in our house. It's a byproduct of combustion and stuff like that. So if you have a malfunctioning furnace, you can get a buildup of carbon monoxide, which will poison you. And it's a odorless gas that will kill you quite quickly. Carbon dioxide, on the other hand, it will also kill you, but if you stick your head inside of a freezer that has carbon dioxide in it, you will know it very quickly. It will burn your nose like ammonia. And so it's a very different thing. There are carbon dioxide detectors that are used in commercial settings, but the thing that everybody has in their house is not a carbon dioxide detector, it's a carbon monoxide detector. The other thing I wanted to clear up a little bit was some of the stuff on pressure fermentation, in case folks are confused. No, you do not need to leave your fermenter connected to CO2 under pressure the whole time. CO2 is a byproduct of fermentation, so the yeast creates the CO2. And Josh, I think you probably got confused because when we did that brew back in the summertime, we were using a very large fermenter, like a 15-gallon fermenter with only like 5 gallons of wort. And in order to make sure that things got started nicely, we gave it some pressure to start with. And that was just to take some of the headspace in that huge fermenter. But usually with a fermenter, using like a 7-gallon fermenter for a 5-gallon batch kind of thing. And it's not necessary to hit that wort with CO2. You can throw your yeast in right away, and at the warmer temperatures that you typically use for pressure fermentation, it will quickly build up its own pressure, and then it will go to whatever you set on your spunding valve. Remember, your spunding valve is what you're using to control the pressure of your pressure fermentation. The PRV is a backup emergency that's going to release if it gets to some preset pressure like 15 psi, in some cases 35 psi. So there's a little feedback for you, Josh. Give me some of Todd's money. I would appreciate it very much. Thanks. You guys had an excellent 300th episode and look forward to many more. We'll talk to you later.
That was more like the Marut 3 minutes. God, Jonathan.
Yeah.
No, the great feedback. Yeah. No, but I want to tell him I almost bought a carbon dioxide detector online so that I could pull it up and go, no, my wife has carbon dioxide. Yeah. Jonathan, a guy named, I think Chris left a voicemail who was extremely cordial, and then someone commented on the video who was cordial. Then like 30 other people were like, idiot, it's not carbon. You don't have a CO2 detector in your house, moron. But the people who were cordial, thank y'all so much for that. Yes, I you know what, one person, they weren't being rude, but they're just like, I hope you don't feel embarrassed. I was like, I don't, but I might be too dumb to feel embarrassed. I was like, oh yeah, I mixed up CO2 and carbon monoxide, my bad. Okay, live and learn. But yes, that is the most blatant mistake of 301 that I made. I mean, that's one of the mistakes I've made that got the most feedback through either voicemail or text or a ton of emails. Where, like, again, it's like, oh, hey, Josh, you're never going to live that down. Yeah, I already forgot about it. Didn't even bother. But what are you saying about the pressure thing? We covered that, and I thought we covered it well. He's right.
Yeah, and actually, I guess I was wrong because I'm the one that mentioned it to put the initial pressure on it at 10 psi before.
I think you,
and I didn't realize that was my understanding that we had to keep it. We had to initially put it on 10 psi.
You and Todd have been doing that with excellent results. So I'd love to hear the Marut minute for next time. I don't think it hurts to go ahead and get it to 10 because y'all.
But it's good to know that you don't have to. You can just let the yeast pressure it up themselves. Just make sure you got the splending valve on the right direction. He didn't mention that, but
yeah, that's right. He didn't call you out on that. Yeah, I need to put mine together to see if is it obvious in hindsight? Now that you know you put it on wrong, in hindsight, should you have known that it was on wrong, or is it easy to have it on wrong?
Oh, I should have been more careful.
I mean, but looking at it, like you could tell, like, oh, I should have known that it was backwards. Or is it really easy to confuse?
Well, let me grab it and I'll show it.
Okay. Yeah. While you're doing that, I'll tell people that we, like Jonathan said, to reiterate, the 10 PSI we put on, we used a fermenter king from Anvil, fantastic product, or the Firmzilla from More Beer, fantastic product. We used, and it had a ton of headspace. Okay. So on the screen, for audio listeners only, this might be a good chance to go to YouTube.com.
You can see molded in the body, there's an arrow going that way. I don't know if you can see it, but
it's very difficult.
It's very hard to see. So probably what would be a good idea, you probably can't hear me.
Oh, we hear you.
Would be to take a Sharpie and highlight it. So you can see, which I botched it up, but you can see the arrow pointing that way. It's actually on both sides of the body. Yeah. And it was just my mistake. I wasn't paying attention because these inevitably will get some krausen in here, and it is possible. So you got to clean them.
Yeah.
I cleaned it and I put it back together wrong. So very important thing to do is
and the arrow is pointing the way the air is flowing. That's what the arrow is telling you.
That's the way the air is flowing out.
Right, correct.
So
yeah, if it's facing the direction of your disconnect, that's wrong. You're not
right.
It's not going to be able.
It's not going to let anything out.
Right, and then that's when you pray that the initial pressure relief valve does its job. Because again, in theory,
the conical doesn't explode.
And the conical, my biggest fear is explosions. I have a terrible fear. Well, I say that, and spiders, and not being loved. But that's a therapy session. But anyways, so on Jonathan's feedback, thank you so much for leaving that. I will give you a $25 gift card to KegConnection.com, courtesy of the absent hunting abandoned us, Mr. Todd Burns. That takes us, James, to our first question of the week. Came from our buddy Phil from Pennsylvania.
Joshua, I do, in fact, do not enjoy the sound of my voice. However, I just had my first brew. My son was at a concert in Ohio. I live in Pennsylvania, which our beer laws in PA are terrible. So he brought me back my first 6-pack of brew. And oh my goodness, what an amazing beer. I totally get your obsession now from actually getting to try my first brew. I've brewed a few Kolsches over the last 2 years, and I think I've got the grain bill. However, this is so light and airy on the finish. I was wondering if the brain trust there knew where that comes from. How does it finish so dry and so light and so cloud-like that it just floats away? I'm anxious to hear if you guys have an answer for this. Love the podcast. Keep up the good work, and hopefully you guys will have an answer for this one. Thanks.
I'm glad we have another convert in the covenant.
Yeah.
I will say this: Fru is my favorite import Kolsch. It's not even my favorite Kolsch though. I like Peter's Kolsch over there.
Yep.
And then oh goodness, what was the other one that you told me I had to try? It was the one that you mentioned that you
the Dome.
The Dome Kolsch.
Kolsch.
Yeah, and that Peter's Kolsch for sure is not imported over here. Is Dome?
No, they're local.
Yeah.
They're just local to
Cologne. Yeah,
Cologne.
But Peter's Kolsch is, even if you can imagine, friend, even better than Fru. But Fru is Fru is what I tell people in the States to judge your Kolsch on, because I think it's the absolute. Reisdorf isn't a bad Kolsch, but Fru does have that signature. He said it perfect. I say it too. Cloud-like finish. James, you're the king of alpha end and beta end and all this. If someone wants to make a Fru Kolsch clone, the cloudy, dissipating airiness, similar finish, what are you going to suggest to them? It's more than just a grain bill. It's a whole part of the brewing process, right?
Well, the grain bill needs to have in my Kolsch, I just do pills and malt, and I do a little touch of Caribbean, and that's it. You don't want a big, busy grain bill. You don't want anything that will add body. And if you do just a base malt, and I add a little bit of Caribbean, because to me, I think it adds a little of that sweetness to it. You can also add Vienna malt to it and achieve the same results. But the biggest thing is the mashing temperature. For a light bodied beer, you want to stay away from the alpha range. That's anything above 152. I would even go say anything above 150. Stay out of that range and just mash it between 145 and 148. You stay in that range, you're creating short sugar chains, which are the beta sugars. And what's going to happen is the yeast is going to consume the short sugar chains, whereas we've talked about in other episodes, the alpha sugar molecule is long sugar chains. So what they do is they eat some of it, they eat the ends or cleave the ends, and the middle's left for body and sweetness. So you would do that with let's say a stout or an IPA, something where you want some sweetness to cancel out the bitterness of the hops. And also the body is important in the beer. So light body, beta, big body, medium to big body, you can do a combination at 150 and kind of get best of both worlds. But if you want a dry beer, you can also use some. It's a amyloglucosidase, and what it does is it breaks down all the sugars into simple fermentable sugars, and it'll completely consume the yeast will eat all of that sugar, and then you'll have what's called a brut or a real dry beer. But that's not the case with the Kolsch. The Kolsch, I believe, it's a combination of things. The hops, the Kolsch hops tend to be a little more on the fruitier side, and which you wouldn't use for an alt. They both pretty much use the same basic type of yeast. It's a ale yeast at lager temperatures, and then they're whereas on an alt, I do a dual mash. So I'll mash in the beta, and then I'll switch and mash to the alpha to give it just a little bit of body, because an alt beer needs a little more body. Todd does like a dry alt, and they do make drier alts, but the Schlussel to me is the perfect alt. So it has a little bit of body along with little sweetness. With a Kolsch, you want something easy drinking, like they would call a Kolsch here a lawnmower beer. And if I do a Kolsch, I'm doing it strictly in the beta range, one hop addition, pills and malt with a little Caribbean. That's it. It's real simple beer to make. RO water only. I don't add I don't treat the water. I just do RO water. And the RO water I use to brew has a pH of like between 5.3 and 5.7. So it's real good for mashing. Don't really want to get into the whole water profile. I know people are shocked when I say that.
I was going to say, you know how much feedback I get when I tell people we just use RO? They're like, wait, you're brewing a true to style Kolsch, Josh, and you don't make nope, never have. And I promise you it's still delicious.
We've had some really good batches of Kolsch. Mm-hmm. And I think, Horst, he's the one. If you want to talk about a big brainy beer guy, Horst is the guy.
Yep.
I mean, he's the guy consulting breweries. He's German, and he said on our podcast one episode, don't worry about water profiles.
Yeah, don't overthink it, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Worst shirt idea ever that won't sell for you Frew people who want to make it. I'm a beta brewer, or something. I'll work it into a shirt. People don't want to be beta these days. It's all about alpha and sigma. But no, like you said, the beta range of stuff under 150 is what you've always told me of replicating it. Just mash as under 150 if you're trying to replicate that airy light finish. Because like you said, and then I'm glad you brought up the alt, because the dual mash, like you said, you do need body in an alt that's not in a Kolsch. They're structurally kind of similar beers. And pardon me, the grain bills, right? Like, and the yeast, you can use the same yeast.
You can use the same yeast, but the grain bill's totally different. The alt beer has lots of caramel malts. And, it's got Carafa 1, Carafa 2.
We're right. You're right. Ours on the other end is Pilsen and Cara Pils.
Caribbean is what I use.
Pardon me. Yeah, but and it's what 95.5.
Just super simple.
Like you're,
that contributes to the lightness too, also.
But you're on the Kolsch recipe. It's like your recipe is 95% Pilsen and the 5% Caribbean, right? Isn't that what you do for yours? Yeah. When is the last time you brewed a Kolsch for us?
It's been a while.
Not the LME or DME Kolsch either. Which turned out great, actually.
Yeah. Actually, I still have some in my at home.
Yeah,
and it's aged really well.
Yeah, Todd has some on tap still, and he'll be surprised to come home and realize I didn't drink it all, Todd, because he specifically told me not to. And I didn't tap into it, but he has that new ESB on there. And I'm telling you, when I tried it off his conical, there was a flaw. We're gonna wait till he's back on the show to elaborate on that. But I think he kegged it already, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Okay, I've got a keg.
Okay, then no spoilers. We'll wait till he gets on, because I want to confront him about that. Because when I told him, I kind of got called out by him when I said on his ESP, I said, I think there's a little diacetyl here, Todd. And he goes, you said that about the last beer and you were wrong. I was like, yeah, okay. So maybe we need to do a taste test off this recent keg with you and him and then reevaluate. Because I'm telling you.
Yeah, you think I'm the only one out of the three that's actually brewed diacetyl in a beer.
No. I did a diacetyl Kolsch. I say a diacetyl Kolsch. It tasted like a Kolsch Weizen. I don't know if you never had any of that batch. My pop and I did it because the fermentation was way too high. And
but that's different. That's estery.
It was esters. It wasn't diacetyl. It was esters.
Not full-blown butterscotch. No. I mean, it's not appealing taste.
Let me digress even more. There's a brewery we know, we won't name names or whatever, but remember they brewed a batch of diacetyl beer and they still put it on tap and they called it like grandma's butterscotch. Not ironically, they tried to play it off like they did it on purpose. I shared that with some brewer friends in the industry and they were like, wait, this is a joke, right? They're joking. I go, no, they're not joking. They're being serious. And then people in the comments are like, this is one of the best beers I've ever had. Like, okay, they got paid to leave that feedback.
Yeah. Well, Wes came in the other day, the brewmaster at Teddy's Brew House, and he told me, he said he's had to do something he's never done before. He had to dump a batch.
Was it diacetyl for that one?
He said it just wasn't. It was the amber ale that, like the first one that I helped him do, the very first batch. He was doing an amber ale, and he said that he was substituting grains for stuff he didn't have, and he said it just wasn't. It wasn't that beer. So,
but good for him.
You got to give him props
because that's expensive. That's expensive. Yeah. Dumping that much. That's a lot of money lost in ingredients and then time. But good for him for doing it, because I guess he could have easily kegged it and tried to put it off as some, specialty one-time limited edition. And no, it's our sticky amber. That's why it tastes different, guys.
But that's when you lose customers. It's just not worth the risk, I think.
I totally agree. Yeah, I've only seen you, I think the lemon drop pills that we took with us to Homebrew Cons, the only batch of beer you've dumped that I know, to my knowledge.
Oh, the Roggen beer, I dumped it.
Oh, that too. Yeah, you're right. And that was before.
That was the worst beer I've ever made. It was terrible. Yeah, don't scorch the wort and hope to save it. If you scorch the wort, just throw it out.
Kenny and I did that, and that batch got dumped. I tried to tell Todd, no, we'll tell people it's like a burnt Scotch ale or something. I don't know. No,
it's a smoked ale.
Yeah, it was terrible. But
smoked on the element.
Yes. Anyways, Phil, thank you so much for submitting that. A reminder to everyone, first reminder, find yourself someone to get you some Froo. If you don't have Froo in your place, talk to your local distributors. You should be getting Froo at your local grocery store. And Froo, sponsor the show. I know they have a U.S. rep somewhere. They need to be sponsoring this. I give them so much business. I direct so many people to them. We'll do it for free Froo. I don't want to speak on behalf of Todd, but we'll do it for free Froo. Anyways, also another reminder, Phil's getting a $25 gift card because he left a voicemail to 325-305-6107, and you can too. Or if you text us to that same number or leave us a question at homebrewhappyhour.com and the submit a question link at the top of the page, you still get you get a $15 gift card, which I think is pretty good, which takes us to our second question. It was a text message from our buddy Anderson at 325-305-6107. Anderson wrote, my LHBS, which is local homebrew supply shop, doesn't specify which company their grains are from, even when I asked the counter manager. He said he wasn't sure because they buy from so many companies depending on price and availability. In your opinion, how strict should I be if a recipe says a specific brand name? Does it really matter? Anderson, that's we're not in the ingredients business anymore, but I'll tell you, we did the same thing. Remember, James? We didn't separate from malt.
Well, I mean, as competitive as it is between homebrew supply stores online,
yep,
you got to go with the cheapest price you can get.
That's
the name of the game.
To try to turn any profit, you had to. It was a game of pennies and whatnot, and so it was astronomically difficult to try to keep independent listings for this type of pale and this type of Marisot or from this and that. It was, some people go, oh no, you just put it in. No, guys, it was more difficult than So we did that. So we can kind of speak on experience. That's why your local homebrew supply shop is probably doing that, because they're lucky to be in operation, Anderson. Like right now, I'm glad you're supporting them, because brick and mortars everyone's hurting in our industry right now. That's not one of the top conglomerates, but not to go on a rant about that. But I will say this, to me, I'm going to ask your opinion, James, because my opinion doesn't matter to most people. But to me, brands don't matter as long as I know I'm getting the same. Like if I'm needing 80 Levy Bond Caramel or Crystal 80, as long as it's Crystal 80, it doesn't matter to me which company its name is on the bag. How do you feel about brand names when it comes to malt?
Most of the malters here in the United States or North America it's highly modified malt. So, there's not a lot of, if you're wanting a as close to old school as possible, and you want to do like an old school German Pilsner, and then you do the unmodified malt, then you have to do the protein rest and the dough in the protein rest, and you actually have to get the malt ready for starch conversion. And there's probably I've not done that. So I used to do those steps when I first started researching the alt beer. But then Horst was like, all that stuff's unnecessary because it's already been modified for starch conversion. So you're just wasting time. So I think as long as you're going through the major malters like RAR or
Wireman,
Great West Malting Company, or any of the suppliers here in North America. They're highly modified malt. You should have a good result, good product.
Muntins, Breeze,
The old school guys that do it the old school way will probably disagree with me and say that there's a notable difference in the way it tastes. I would just have to do a side by side comparison and see if there is a difference.
And that's what I was going to say too, because there will be people who also write in or call in and go, well, couldn't you say that about yeast? They came from the same strain and for most parts. And I'd say, yeah, do a test.
If they did come from the same strain, then that's the same product marketed under a different company.
Right. And do a test. Like the reason why we came to love Imperial was the results we were getting. And we were using them before they ever sponsored us because of the results we were getting. And I will also add, I will get biased towards a malt company when we secure a malt sponsor. Okay.
I think sometimes it's, you can maybe go too far down the rabbit hole in regards to ingredients and keep it simple, keep it fun. I think you'll have really good results no matter if you've got I don't know off the top of my head. I know that we get a lot of different types of malts, from raw to Great Western malters, and I could be hacking the names up. There's one in Canada.
Yeah, it is something Canadian malt. Yeah, I'm bad at it too. I open the bags all the time because when I'm up there doing the recipes for
but I never pay attention. We have some that we get from Germany too, and I can't imagine that's going to be right? Yeah, I believe they are. I think they're based out of Europe, but a lot of the malters in Europe are hurting right now.
Yeah,
because there's going to be a huge malt shortage because of what's going on over there.
Yeah.
It just hadn't filtered down to us yet. But when it does, you get ready.
Yeah.
Beer's going to go way up in price, but also, and it's going to be hard to get.
I'm not. Before someone leaves me a 1-star review, last time I made a joke of a global conflict or something, I got Josh. He's a sniveling jerk making fun of it. I'm not making fun of a potential global conflict as much as I'm saying people are gonna care less about the brand at one point. If it gets catastrophic of supply chain issues and all that, people will stop being so picky. If they want to keep brewing beer, they'll be like, I really need that Muntins Marisol. They'll be like, all I have is this. Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah. I think it's a perfect storm of growing areas, fertilizer availability, and supply chain issues. Shipping costs are going to go up. We've seen this last week. Oil is going back up again. It's just same story, different month. I'm ready for all this crap to end.
When there's any light at the end of the tunnel, we need Horst back on here to be our doom and gloom.
Yeah, he painted a pretty doom and gloom scenario last time he was on, and I think I hate to say I don't think he was right. I probably think he was spot on point. We just hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah, totally. No, and I agree. And that, like, people wonder why I laugh at stuff. I can't take stuff serious. What are you going to do anyways, guys? If there is a huge supply short, like, start buying bulk now. I don't know what to tell you as much as,
you can get what you can get, put it in a freezer. Heck, go to Home Depot and get one of those cheap freezers, fill it up with malt.
Right. Exactly.
You can always, I wouldn't really worry about the roasted malt. Just if it was me, I would just put 2-row or Pilsner or any kind of base malt and just load up on it.
Yeah, and
you can always make a good simple smash beer with one hop style. And I mean, I could be perfectly fine with just Pils and malt,
dude, and
like Hallertau or Saaz, and then just because you can do a smash beer with that, have a really good product, light, easy drinking session beer with that, and be happy about it,
dude. I'm telling you that pressure Pils has made me look. Kolsch is still king, guys. I'm not saying Kolsch isn't king, but what you produced and how easy you did and how quick you turned it around,
1 week.
Woo! I'm a believer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking 1 week from brewing it, we pressure fermented it to in a keg, dispensing in a pint glass.
Yes,
a week.
It was maybe 8 days. Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was Friday. So I
it
brewed
was
it on a Friday.
Okay.
I kegged it on a Thursday, put it upstairs in the cooler, let it cool down, and then I forced carbonated on a Friday. And it was surprisingly bright for as green as it was.
Yeah.
And we were drinking on it that afternoon.
And you see how bright it is now 4 weeks later. When I send, like, on Sundays, I'll send you photos in our group chat of the cigar, and it is as bright as anything I've ever seen. It's incredible. It's a beautiful beer. And yeah, that's if I get a chest freezer, I'm gonna just put a bunch of pills and malt in there, and then I'll get it.
And you can use two-row. I mean, you can. That's a good alternative. It's plentiful here in the United States right now.
Two-row is.
In fact, most breweries are using two-row because they get it in bulk.
Speaking,
fairly reasonable.
I'm kind of digressing, not off brand for me. We've been told since COVID lockdowns and all that about a CO2 shortage, but now I'm hearing more people are affected by one. Is it affecting? It hasn't affected us at Kekenech in regards to the gas. I know we had
no, it just went up. I mean, we had a bunch of cylinders that were still in date that Todd actually loaded up in his truck and took to Dallas and had them fill it up. I think it was Dallas.
Yeah, or
anyway,
it was the DFW area, somewhere in that area.
Yeah. The Metroplex.
Yeah.
And it was twice as much money to fill those up as the last time that we had it done. And we had it done by a company in up north. So
that's
in
wild.
Minnesota.
So the cost of the gas has skyrocketed.
Yeah, it's effectively doubled in price, along with just about everything else.
Because of the industry shortage, I'm sure. So because demand is there. Yeah, because I've seen in the brewery subreddit some places talking about the shortage. I'm like, oh, we must just be super fortunate that it hasn't really affected us in regards to lack of supply. I didn't realize that the prices jumped up that much, but
it's huge.
Makes me feel bad for filling my cylinders behind Todd's back now. But off of his, no, I didn't. Vilver did it for me. But Anderson, to wrap up your question, I don't think you should worry that much. And if a recipe does say, oh, you need floor malted Wireman or whatever, if floor malted is the key point of that equation.
Well, that's the thing, is every malt's floor malted. So it may be, I think the biggest thing to look for is if you're trying to do a traditional recipe and it calls for unmodified malt because it has a stepped mash process. Like, some of these guys, they'll start off at like 110 degrees and then they'll go up to 120, then they'll go to 130 something, 140 something, and then they just slowly move it up. And, I'm not the expert by any means on unmodified malts and mashing profiles, but the whole purpose of that was to get the malt ready for starch conversion. You had to do that to get it ready. Now you don't. Now it's ready to go out of the bag. So don't worry about it. Worry about whether you can get malt in 6 months or not.
Yeah, that's like I said. We're gonna do the doom and gloom episode with you, me, and Horst. I can get into that mood. Be like, and then the World War III hits, and we will not have beer. Actually, I played a lot of Fallout, which is a video game series. I used to play a ton of Fallout. I'm ready for a post-nuclear apocalyptic world, and I've got a ton of bottle caps, and I know how to brew beer. I need to learn how to skin a deer, like field dress it, and then I'll be good to go. Bring on the apocalypse in the 1-star review. And he encouraged nuclear war. Hit submit. No, this is a good time to remind y'all, if you haven't left us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, leave us a review. You leave us a 5-star review and I give you a digital high five. I can't give you any prizes or anything like that for reviews. That's not right. But we do appreciate y'all's feedback, and you can always leave it on the platform you're listening to us to, or call it in at 325-305-6107. Anderson, thank you so much for submitting that question. Our last question of the show it's a voicemail from our buddy Zach from Michigan.
Hey guys, I'm looking to brew one of your old recipes, the Mosaic Session IPA, and it has only a 15-minute hop addition. I was curious if when you're doing a recipe like that, where the earliest addition is 15 minutes or anything less than 60, should you still boil it for longer, or you only need to boil it from that 15-minute mark? Thanks for your thoughts, guys. Look forward to hearing you. Since you made a comment last time, yes, I was driving. This is Zach from Michigan. It's the only time that I have to myself where there's not kids screaming or dogs barking. So it's the most convenient time to get a voicemail. So let me know your thoughts. Should I boil longer? Maybe just an extra 5 minutes? What are your thoughts? Thanks, guys.
I like it. He's driving again.
Yeah, that's so true, though. Been there. Yeah.
All right, your kids. Dad. You know what I do, Zach, is I go to the ranch, and it's work. And no, I'm kidding. My wife.
No, you can go to your office.
I do. I do. We built this 150 square foot thing in my garage, and so that my kids have to go through the laundry room, into the garage, cross through that. It's too much effort for them. They'd rather just go, Mom. It works out. It's a winner. But for Zach's question, first let's talk about like a recipe like that. What's the idea of only having the only addition being at the 15-minute, which is at the end of a 60-minute boil? And
right. And the main purpose of that is for flavor and aromatics. You don't want any bittering units. And that's the main reason. So if you boil it longer, you change basically the recipe and the hop profile. So if it's claiming to do, if the recipe states that you need to do a 15, and it only has a 15-minute, then that's the goal of the person that created the recipes. They want something with less bittering, but more aromatics and flavor than if you boiled it the whole 60 minutes, then you're going to create bittering units. And, I have brewed some beer before like that. I did I don't know if you remember, Josh, upstairs, we had a whole bunch of spent grains, not spent, but grains that were mistakes. And like, let's say they put a kit together and they got the grain bill wrong.
Yep.
So we had a bunch of that. So I just threw it all in a mash tun and we made a pretty big beer.
You did.
And I did, I think I did a 15, I did a 0, and I did a Whirlpool at 180. And then I did a dry hop after High Krausen. And it wasn't bad.
It was boozy.
It definitely wasn't bitter, but it
wasn't bitter. It was smooth. It was very smooth and very, I say boozy. It didn't have not boozy in the sense of like a barley wine where you settle up on your nose. I mean, it caught up to you quick. You have 2 pours and you're like, whoa, let me stand up slow.
Yeah, I say big beer. I mean, it was probably 7 and a half.
I thought it was 7.5.
Most.
I think it was 7.5, wasn't it? Yeah.
But my objective was not to have a bittering beer, but just have something more along the New England style IPA where it's all about the flavor, the aromatics of the hops. And I think I used Amarillo, Citra, and maybe that's all I used. Amarillo and Citra on both. Anyway, that was 4 years ago.
It's been a while, man. This coming March or May, pardon me, I'll be 15 years with Cat Connection. Time, and you're coming up on 7.
Me,
yeah,
first week in November.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, I worked my previous job. I worked 13 years. The one before that was 7 years. The one before that was 11 years.
Dang, you stick around.
So yeah, I've done pretty much 7 years. Yeah, it was the first week in November 2015 when I came on board.
Yeah, I'm about to be 37.
Gosh, I've been working for 40 years. Wow.
I'm about to be 37, and my adult life has been here, basically. Todd's seen me grow up. It's been nice, or trying to grow up. But back to Zach's question. Not the driving part, my kids screaming, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, we very straightforward answer. Don't change anything about the hop schedule or boil, because that's what the author of the recipe intended. What comes from how they structured it is what they intended it to be. And so if you boiled longer, so if you put it in at I'm using air quotes for audio listeners, the 15, but then he boiled an additional 10 or 5 or 10, and it's not a 15 anymore. Now it's a 20 or a 25. That's creating bittering units that the recipe wasn't intended to have. Correct?
Well, I mean, potentially. I think it takes a little more than 30 minutes for the actual bittering units to be created, or for them to, I can't say the word, so I'm not even going to try, but isomerization, I butchered that, I know, but that's that's the alpha acids turning into bittering units in your beer, and you have to boil it for a certain amount of time for that to happen. But try it, do it to the recipe, and if you like it, do another batch and extend the hop addition to 20 and see if it makes a difference.
So that's
the cool thing, is you can play around with the recipe and get the results you like. But
personally. You wouldn't for clarity for me, because I'm dumb, you wouldn't do a longer than 60-minute boil. You would push the hop schedule up by 5. You would do it at 20 and still do a 60-minute, or you would do a 105-minute boil, or pardon me, a 65-minute boil.
No, it's 61 hour. You're gonna get what you're gonna get out of the hops. It's not like extended boil is it's just gonna continue to create. You only have the bittering units. The hops are the fuel for that. So when that tank is empty, it's empty. It's not going to create any more, whether you boil it for 60 or you boil it for 120 minutes.
Gotcha.
The hops only have so much capability of bittering, and that's why they have the number on the bag, whether it be 4, like this one that I'm doing now. I'm using Spalter Select, and it's 4.3. So that's the alpha acids.
Yeah.
And they're tested every year. Every crop is just a little different. Some are lower, some are higher. And then you have the higher alpha, like Amarillo is over 10, I think. I don't have my hop chart with me, but there's some that are way on up there. Citra, I believe Citra's high.
Yeah.
And what I look at is I have a little hop book that gives me descriptions of just about every hop available, what they're designed for. Are they dual purpose? Are they bittering? Are they aroma? And it's been my experience typically that if you see high alpha acid content hops, that's more of a aroma flavor hop than a bittering hop. I've used some for both bittering and aroma and flavor. We call it dual purpose hops that were specifically maybe not designed for a bittering hop, but I've used them anyway. And that's just me. I like to play around and experiment. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
You are the experimenter. That's for sure. MacGyver and experimenter is what we know you for. And when people have the questions about like their rids or whatever, and I'm not even talking about just for the show, customers will be like, I'm trying to do this. I'm like, let me forward you to James. That's who you want to talk to. I promise you. He's going to help you out. I still get feedback on the people. One of our most watched videos is your comparison of the all-in-ones. And a lot of comments and a lot of direct messages through YouTube or Instagram to me are like, how did he make that mash and boil with a pump? Which I don't even know if they still sell the mash and boil without a pump these days. But
I can't imagine they would.
A lot of people have that first gen though, and they're like, and I either forward them to you, or I think we put the link to the pump you used in there and the little aeration.
Yeah, it was just I want to say it was a solar cell coolant pump on Amazon. I believe that's the description. It was like $24.
Right.
It wasn't much.
But
I'm using it now for my piggyback cooler circuit for the glycol chiller for the auxiliary conical, the ugly one. That's actually more efficient than the other one we're using, which is oddly enough.
It is because
I can get it within 2 degrees of the chiller, and the other one's anywhere between 8 and 10 degrees.
You also covered it in like 4 inches of insulation foam or whatever.
I went and got I bought that thing in 2010. I think it was $1,400 back then. Me and a group of guys went in and pulled our money together and bought it. And I went to the local hardware store and got 4 cans of spray foam and just spray foamed the crap out of it.
How did you end up keeping
terrible.
It? Did you buy them out, or did you just say it's mine?
Oh, I just we all went our separate ways, and I ended up one of the guys was like, you need to come get all this stuff, and I said, yeah, I'll come get it.
Hell yeah!
And I still have everything. I still got the cooler, the pots, and everything. So.
Yeah. But now you're a brow tog man. I see the post.
Yeah, I mean it'd be hard to go back to that old gravity because it was a 3-tier gravity flow system. It was a lot of work. It was an all-day deal. This is just so much better. And in fact, I'm already done. It's about as cold as I'm going to get it. I may have to put some ice on it. It's at 81 degrees.
I'll wrap it up soon. I'll say, though, someone did just comment in the last week on the Cooler Brew video, which is also one of our most watched videos. And they said something along the lines of, why would anyone brew this way when there's so much better brewing methods? And I was like, you're not
exactly right.
You're not wrong, but there's different strokes, different folks, man. Or different folks, different strokes, or whatever the saying is. You said rabbit hole, I say rabbit trail, tomato to potato. And but it's like, my pop and I, if the weather's good, we like cooler brewing. It's fun outside.
Yeah, one of the best beers we ever brewed was the beer we brewed in that video at ESB. Is still to this day one of my favorite homebrew beers I've ever had.
Yeah, and so that's what I told him, like being as cordial as I could without being like, "You're right, you should get a Brautag Herms. That's the only way to brew." When I don't do that, electric all grain brewing is a lot more convenient. Sure, if you have
and some people they do brew in a bag. They swear by it,
and they swear.
And, I technically did that when we were doing test batches for Big Bertha. I had a got water cooler and I bought a big old bag and just filled it in there and. I would mash in it and just pull it out and let it drain and rinse the bag. And I didn't know at the time, this was in 2010. I didn't know people did that. I didn't know that was a term. I just thought it was a simple way of doing it for smaller batches because we would always do a test. We were making our own recipes. A lot of them were crap, but we didn't know what we were doing. We were learning as we were going. And I remember we were testing a chocolate stout recipe. And that was the first time I did that. And I happened to be in Austin, and I went to Austin Homebrew Supply, and I saw the big bag that would fit in those water coolers. And I had one. I don't want to say it was like a 5-gallon. Yeah. And that's what I used to mash in. And that's what I poured sparge water over the grain beds while 2 people held it up.
Yeah.
And then we poured that into a pot and boiled it and made beer.
You were an early adopter of brewing a bad. People are acting like it's all something now. James Carlson. And now he says, screw your bad, get a 3-vessel Herms. All right, all the hate mail's coming in. No, but the point I was getting at with that digression of a digression was brew you brew with what equipment you have and what you enjoy brewing with is what I basically told the guy, because we're lucky to have options, and I'm specifically referring to us. We have options, and the ultimate option is the 3-vessel Herms. But like I said, at my pops on a beautiful day, hey, maybe we'll get that out. Or maybe it's too freezing and we'll get out the G40 from Grainfather or the Spite prototype my pop still thinks he can fix. But any of those things, the Anvil Foundry we had a blast with, or the mash and boil you did. But anyways, brew with what you got and what makes you happy. That's my motivation for the month.
If it works for you, that's the correct way to do it.
That is the correct way to do it. And James, that's all I've got. Go transfer your beer, man. I hope the rest of your brew day goes well. I appreciate you setting some time for us to do the show this week. And I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right. Take care.
You too. And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com, click on that submitted question link at the top of the page, or be Todd's best friend and leave us a voicemail to 325-305-6107. For the best hops available online, give our friends at hopsdirect.com a visit and pick up what you need for your next brew day. Also, get a free pack of premium Imperial yeast along with delicious recipes from us when you join our Chub Club. Go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and come brew with us. On behalf of the absent Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.